let's do the translations on this one. Well, the parent function is the square root function. So if I draw that, the square root of 0 is 0, square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 4 is 2. Those are some easy ones to draw. Label this 2 and 4. There's the parent function. Now, I've got stuff on the x and outside. On the x moves it left to right. It's actually going to move it right to. So I'm going to move my grid over, put the y-axis there, the x here. So this is 4 and this is 4. So if I go follow this curve, it's now plus 2, so it's here. If I go over 1, it's up 1. If I go over 4, it's up 2. So it should be right there. And that's the x minus 2. Moves it right 2. Okay? Now, the outside. There's two numbers, and they're on the outside of the parent function. They're not in the in square root, so I do them according to my dear Aunt Sally, which multiplication comes before addition. So the 1/3, this is on the outside, so this is working vertically, compresses, and it does what it says as opposed to opposite, vertically by 1/3. So, putting the grid in the same place with the same units, the height here was 0, 1/3 of 0 stays the same. The height here was 1, 1/3 of 1 is 1/3. The height here was 2, so the 1/3 of that is 2/3. And you should have one that looks like this. 1/3 as tall. And then finally, plus 1. And that's outside, and so that's works in the y direction, so it moves it, and it works the same, so it goes up. Plus 1 is up 1. So I'm going to take this graph and move it. Instead of a 0, it's going to be 1. Instead of 1/3, it's going to be 1 and 1/3. Instead of 2 being 2/3, or 4 over being 2, it's going to be 2/3. Let's see here, I got to do it from here up 2/3, and so it'll look like that, where this is 4 and this is 4. That's the second part of 7. Now let's go to 8. Determine whether these are even, odd, or neither. Give evidence. As I said in class, probably the easiest is to put in 1 and -1. Let's do that. If I put in 1, I get 1 minus 5, which is -4. If I put in -1, I get -1 plus 5, which is +4. If I change the sign of the x and it changes the sign of the outcome, the y, it is even. Or I mean odd, excuse me, odd. So sorry, oh man, I don't want to mess you guys up. Odd would be the y, you get the same outcome. Odd, you changes the sign of the outcome. So let's see what happens here. Some said absolute value can't be anything, but let's just check. If I put in 1, what do I get? So 2 times 1 is 2. Absolute value is 2. Is 2 minus 1, which is 1. Now let's put in negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2 is plus 2. Minus 1 is 1. I put in 1, I put in negative 1, I got the same result. That's leaning towards an even function. Now let's go to this one. If I put 1 into this, 1 minus 3 is negative 2 squared is 4. If I put in negative 1, negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4 squared is 16. So I didn't get the same thing and I didn't get the opposite of the same thing, so this is a neither. And finally, the point is on the line, so if it's over x, any random distance x, f of x is 20 minus x, that's the y value. F of x, the y value is that. It says create a function d of x that gives the distance from P to the origin, which is 0, 0. Well, the distance formula is the square root of change in x, so x minus 0 is x, change in x squared, plus change in the y. Y is 20 minus x, minus 0 is just 20 minus x squared. And that's it for that one.